I'm going to start reading, and I didn't give this to you, Anthony, but I'm going to start reading in Psalm 14, verse 1 to 3, if you can put that up there. Psalm 14, 1 to 3. Praise the Lord, everybody, and welcome here to Bible study this evening. Happy birthday, Sister Kara. And we'd also like to give some good praise report of baby Victoria. It looks like she'll be going home. Thank you, Jesus. Long time to spend there. And I'm sure not everything's over yet, but let's continue to pray for the family. God lift them up, give them strength, the journey home, getting baby home, getting everything sorted there, change for the kids, etc., etc. I mean, if you just take even just the sickness itself, which is, of course, the primary concern, but you take it out, the stress of doing everything that they've done over the holidays, etc., till now is really big, pretty impactful. And that's not exactly the environment you want to have your child in, that kind of stress. So that even creates more. So just kind of being aware of that allows us to sort of pray for that, I think, and take that before God and say, God, give this couple some strength and let them know where their strength comes from. Amen. Okay, I'm reading from Psalm 14, 1 to 3. Fools say in their hearts, there is no God. They are corrupt. They do abominable deeds. There is no one who does good. So interesting how it starts off with fools, and that's a place where we can be like, well, I'm not a fool. And then at the end there it says, there is no one who does good. The Lord looks down from heaven on humankind to see if there are any who are wise, who seek after God. They have all gone astray. They are all alike perverse. There is no one who does good. No, not one. And so with this rather bleak opening to a Bible study, so I said a while ago that we're going to start a series, and it'll be an interspersed series, but there's going to be an interspersed series on spiritual disciplines. Doesn't that sound like fun? Of course, we're all used to hearing the word discipline, and what do we think of when we hear discipline? Yes, exactly, right? Yeah, ouch. Now, we know that discipline is actually doing what you should do. And so I have made a point in my parenting, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything like that. This is just what I happen to do. I like to differentiate that for the children and, then for myself as well. Discipline is, doing what you should do. And I can discipline you, which means I can make you do the things you need to do, or you can discipline yourself, which is you choose to do the things that you should do. Ideally, you choose. At the beginning, though, as the parent, I have to be the discipline. I may have to go and knock on the door and say, it's now time to wake up. And if you don't, there's going to be consequences for that, right? You will be late for school, you will be this, that, so the other thing. And then sometimes the consequence is me. I'm the consequence, and I have to punish the bad behavior, which is not something I enjoy doing, right? And I have to then take away some thing or what have you to make them feel the negative consequence for not having discipline themselves. So, discipline is not about punishment. I said all of that to just kind of differentiate from that. I don't want to talk about punishment. Please don't hear the word punishment. Spiritual discipline is more akin to going to the gym when you're supposed to, waking up when you're supposed to, doing, if you're studying something, putting the time and effort on a particular period to get better at that thing. That's what I'm talking about. Discipline is about telling self, yes, that slice of cake is magnificent, wonderful, and would be great if I ingested it at the beginning, but not great later. So I will discipline present self, so future self will be happy with me. Yeah, there will be consequences. Yeah, there might be. Yeah, absolutely. And so that's what I want to talk about. So when we're talking about spiritual disciplines, it's about disciplines. But we're going to kind of, I hope, discover something rather interesting in this. Now, I am going to be doing this series from a series of different books. Obviously, the Bible is going to be center. This week, I am going to be teaching a lot from a book written by Richard Foster. The book is called Celebration of Discipline, The Path to Spiritual Growth. This happens to be one of the books that is one of my textbooks for one of my classes this semester, but it is a fantastic book nonetheless. And so here we go, ready or not. Modern culture itself is rather shaped by materialistic thinking. I think we can pretty much all agree with that. Modern culture is really like that. And I don't mean just like in the 2010s and 2020s. I mean 1900s onward. If you look at the Victorian era onward, we've very much so gotten wrapped up in this idea of materialism. Like beavers almost went extinct in Canada because beaver hats were such a craze in the United Kingdom. Like, doesn't that just blow your mind? We almost wiped out the entire species in North America within like 50, 60, 70 years, just because that particular type of felt was so prized in the Victorian era of the United Kingdom. That's just crazy. So this is something that's not, right now, but it's definitely our outlook on life is very materialistic. And as I've said before, it has become quite secular. The whole idea of God having any thoughts or ideas or influence on day-to-day human life is gone. That used to be a given in society, 500 years ago and before. But since then till now, it's been dwindling and dwindling and dwindling to the point where there's a lot of people who just don't believe in God whatsoever. And then those who do believe that he doesn't actually do anything in life. And that while he may have created things, he's rather now an absentee father and just leaves everything alone. That is sort of secularism. And it sort of dismisses the whole idea of spiritual life as sort of some psychological manipulation. Or if anything, it'll say, if it's good for your mental health, then do it. And studies have shown that spirituality is good for your mental health. So you know what? As a medicine, take it. And that's what it's sort of been reduced to, as kind of one of these other things that can rather help, rather than it being an idea that you can have an encounter with a transcendent God. Right here in your imminent presence, right where you're at, you can meet the creator of the universe. And so along with that, there were many sort of spiritual disciplines that were kind of somewhat common, like fasting and prayer and these kinds of things. And they were common knowledge and commonly practiced, not just in Christianity or in Judaism, but really anywhere where there was any sort of a spiritual thing, a religion, a worshiping of a false god or anything like this. The idea of spiritual discipline was normal. It was expected. It's what you did. You somehow paid obeisance to your God, and you paid lip service to them. And this is everything from like the way you greet one another, to amulets you might have, to incense you might burn, to prayers you might pray, to spirits you might do dances for. Like in every way, shape, or form, there were sort of like disciplines. And today, we look at those things and say, okay, those are cultural things. So you might look at like, here in Canada, you would look at the Indigenous people and the various sort of dances or rituals or clothing styles or headdresses or totem poles and think, well, those are cultural sort of symbols of, just like everyone has like a little pattern of, but they're not. They were evidence of spiritual disciplines that they were involved in behalf of their faith. This is no longer an accepted normal thing. It's something you go and you maybe pay $5 to go and watch. Or it's something that happens in a stadium between periods of a hockey game or a football game. Or it's something you might write a paper about in school. But it's not looked at and thought about as some way in which a human being is encountering a transcendent God. Yes. And so that's what we're living in. And so it's possible, of course, then to call oneself a Christian and to attend a church and to be, like I said a couple of sermons ago, affiliated, but not changed. Because we can just go and take that label and accept that, and everyone else is going to be saying, if you want to be a Christian, that's fine. Go for it. Do it. Put the things on your wall and have the fish on the car and a Bible on the shelf and it's okay. Go for it, right? And pray at Thanksgiving or go to Easter services or something. But in no idea that there is actually a God that you're encountering and change that's taking place. And so in absence of all that, we need to spend some time in it. So practical instruction in this area can be helpful, but really the essence of spiritual disciplines actually lies in one's attitude and in one's inward heart, not in the mechanics of doing something. It's not the dance, it's not the prayer, it's not the art, it's not any of the other things that might be what we call spiritual disciplines, but instead it's about that inward attitude. So, sin is not just isolated acts. Sin is a deeply ingrained condition. Now you see where Psalms 14 and 1-3 comes from. It is part of us. It is something that then shapes our habits and shapes our behaviors and thus shapes our disciplines. It shapes what we do. And attempts to overcome sin through sheer willpower, or what Paul calls will worship, are futile. They don't work. And, in fact, they are even idolatrous. External righteousness might appear to look and be successful for a time. But in the end, regardless of what things look like, the true condition of the heart will eventually surface. This is why we say, be sure that your sins will find you out. It's not necessarily talking about individual sins, but the content to who you are will surface. And we are all deeply sinful and flawed people. The will, then, like the law, can only address the external things. It can only address our attitude and the way we look and the way we behave. Oh, I have a presentation if you want to throw it up. I don't know if we're not really sure if I've gotten to anything on there yet, though. And it cannot bring inner transformation. You can take a child, for example, and try and form their behavior with punishment. And in the end, that child might start behaving the way you want them to when you see them. But when you don't see them and or when they're with other people, they're going to behave in a different way. And the worst form of this is a child who becomes an adult who is deeply broken on the inside and is incapable of doing many of the things in life that we would expect an adult to do because all they've ever been is punish throughout their life. If you take your own spirituality and deal with it that way, it as well will not mature and will be broken. So we cannot beat our lives and our spirituality into submission. We can't. And it is a fool's errand to try. And so my verse this evening was cited by Paul in Romans 3:10. He said, "As it is written, there is none who is righteous, not even one." And he's citing, of course, verse 3 of 14, Psalm 14. They all have gone astray. They are all alike perverse. There is none who does good, no, not one. So Paul calls out here this idea that we can make ourselves righteous by our acts and how we act. Colossians chapter 2, 20 to 23 says, "If with Christ you died to the elemental principles of the world, why do you live as if you still belonged to the world? Why do you submit to regulations? Do not handle, do not taste, do not touch." Of course, you remember here he was talking to we did a series on this, didn't we? On Colossians? Yeah. It was Colossians? Yeah. He was talking to the people influenced by the Judaizers. All of these regulations refer to the things that perish with use. They are simply human commands and teachings. These have indeed an appearance of wisdom in promoting self-imposed piety, humility, and severe treatment of the body. But they are of no value in checking self-indulgence. I love that phrase in there as well, because one of the things that we have found out in modern psychology is that when people do self-discipline, when they modify and change their behaviors, they ultimately will reward themselves with self-indulgent behavior at some stage. It's just what we do. Yes, I've worked for this, I deserve this. Exactly, right? And it's really difficult to call that out. And just because I've called that out, don't take me as saying that's wrong. There's a lot of things that we work and we deserve certain things. You look at Ecclesiastes, and Ecclesiastes is basically, you work hard and take your time to enjoy what you've worked for, 100%. But when it comes to behavior modification, self-indulgence then is bad behavior. Do you see what I mean? And so if it's self-control, self-indulgence, self-control and self-discipline, or as it says here, self-imposed piety for the idea of trying to form one's spiritual self, we will eventually self-indulge, and that self-indulgence itself is in sin. That's what it means. It doesn't mean self-indulgence is sin. The self-indulgence that Paul's talking about is sin that we will commit as a way to reward ourselves for how holy we are. Right. You see how broken humanity is? This is why laws don't work. And that's what Paul's point is. The King James Bible renders this in Colossians 3:23 in a cool way, which I'm going to pick up and use. It says, "Which things have indeed a show of wisdom in will worship and humility and in the neglecting of the body, but not in any honor to the satisfying of the flesh." That idea, it translates this Greek word, ethothresica, as will worship, with the hyphen in there. This was a really common thing to do in 17th century English, join two words together with a hyphen. In German, they just slap them together and they don't put a hyphen. But in English, we put the little hyphen to talk about will worship. This is in the NRSVUE written as self-imposed piety. The definition of this Greek word is self-made religion, do-it-yourself religion, or idiosyncratic religion. This comes from the authoritative Greek lexicon that we call the BDAG. This is what that word means. And I love that idea of will worship being put in there, because Paul, that word helps us see that this is self-made religion, therefore it is idolatry. And so it's the worshiping of one's own will and the raising of one's own will above that of the power of God. Meaning, I don't need God to die for my sins. I can fix it myself. Cold turkey. And so it's called ethel-o-thresika, or self-made religion, will worship. Will worship. Worshiping one's own will. I can do it by myself. And the crazy thing is that this idea is very, if you live in an individualistic society, this is great. Yeah. This is great. Because it says I can do it by myself, but it also allows you to go, I'm better than you. I pulled myself up by my own bootstraps. Check me out. You know what I love? Here, I love this. There's a magazine, I think it's called The Entrepreneur. I think it's that one, or maybe it's Forbes. No, it's the Forbes. Forbes magazine does a thing called the top 30 under 30. So it's the top 30 people in North America under the age of 30 years old who have accomplished something great. The crazy thing is the percentage of the people who show up on that list who later go to jail is really high. You wouldn't have thought that I would connect those two, right? But they kid themselves into thinking they can pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. Don't worry, we're all talking. Yeah, it's hitting all of us. It's hitting all of us. I love it. Will worship. Will worship. So, inner righteousness, though, real righteousness before God is a gift from God. It's not self-made religion. It's not willpower or will worship. It's from God. It's not something that we can earn through effort. It is a gift. It's a gift. It's a gift from Romans 5:17. If, because of one man's trespass, death reigned through that one, much more surely will those who receive the abundance of grace and the gift of righteousness reign in life through one man, Jesus Christ. Through him. And it was through him that we then have the opportunity to receive the gift of righteousness. Human striving fails. But this does not mean we should do nothing. Galatians 6:8. If you sow to your own flesh, you will reap corruption from the flesh. But if you sow to the Spirit, you will reap eternal life from the Spirit. Okay, will worship is out. That whole thing, it's out. Self-imposed piety, self-imposed fake humility, severe treatment of the body, all that kind of stuff. We know it doesn't work. It creates a loop effect of self-indulgence where we just reward ourselves for how holy we are by doing something really bad. So we know it doesn't work. So inner righteousness is a gift from God. But does that mean that we do nothing? So it's Paul that's writing both of these. I, of course, argue that Romans was written by Paul. If it was the other way around, that would be really crazy. And so I also agree that Galatians was written by Paul. So he's making the argument in two different places here. The grace of God is a gift of righteousness that came through one man. But does that mean we do nothing? No, because if you sow to your flesh, you're going to reap corruption from the flesh. But if you sow to the Spirit, you'll reap eternal life from the Spirit. So what does it mean to sow to the Spirit? Do we really have a good answer for that? Can we really sort of put our finger on this is what it means to sow to the Spirit? Well, let's jump into that. It means that God has provided spiritual disciplines then as a means of grace. Oh, now, in today's Christian world, we love to tout grace as this great, get out of jail free card. It's a coupon. Admit one. You just won it in a raffle. You got it. And if you were a Calvinist, then that means you got it in the great godly raffle that he did at the beginning of eternity, where you were predestined to go to heaven. And I know that's oversimplifying, and I hope I'm not offending anybody. But it's basically what it means. No, this is not how this works. It is a gift, absolutely. But if it's fixed you completely, and you are a perfect person after you have received the gift of righteousness, you can leave. You don't need to be here. But I'm staying here because I'm not perfect yet. So if I'm not perfect, but I've got this gift of righteousness, then what does this mean, right? If you sow to your flesh, you're going to reap corruption. I don't want corruption. So what do we do? So then these spiritual disciplines then become a means of grace. There are then things that we can do. The spiritual disciplines, they allow us to position ourselves in a place where he can transform us. Yes. So like a farmer who cannot literally go and make a seed grow, but what he can do is make sure that that seed is in the most ideal place and condition as possible to create growth. I spoke with a farmer at one stage, and we were talking about the digitization of farming, and he owned like thousands of acres of land. And he said, it is absolutely amazing. I can go on my computer and say, I want the seeds to be 3 inches this way and this way versus where they were last year. And that's exactly where they will be planted. He said, I don't want it over here just in case there's something still there from the last year. So I can move it 3 inches or 3 centimeters. And that's exactly where the machine with all the GPS is going to drop that seed to the point. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. He wants that seed to grow. Right. More than anything else, he wants that seed and all the millions of other ones to grow and flourish and bring forth life and money so we can sell it, right? And the rest of us can eat lovely bread or cake. So we want to make that condition. So that's what the spiritual disciplines do. They are, in this same analogy, the best tractor you can buy, the best GPS, the best software, the best seed, the best anything else, organic fertilizer, and people who are going to ride on the back of that tractor singing lovely songs and playing violins to your plants to make them grow, or whatever it is that you can try and do to make sure that you get those things to come up. That's what the spiritual disciplines are. Okay? They are the way that we sow to the Spirit. That's how we sow to the Spirit. It's making the conditions ideal for growth. That's why we call them disciplines. Because we're disciplining, we're controlling, we're setting it up. I would like to say that we're setting it up for success. We don't do this by our own strength. No matter what we've done, in the end, no farmer can go to a seed and say, sprout, and poof, it sprouts. It's not possible. All you can do is make the best ideal condition. And maybe that's even in a massive office block downtown New York, where a company has taken floor upon floor upon floor and turned it into hydroponic gardening. And they can produce a bit of spinach super fast, faster than anything else. They literally pump CO2 into this place in order to make these things grow quicker, because plants, of course, they grow off of carbon dioxide. That's like, it's perfect ideal. Like, they can go from seed to selling you spinach in like 2 weeks. That's crazy. Ideal, disciplined, no deviation. Temperature stays here. pressure stays here, CO2 in, oxygen out as a byproduct. Just so, water flowing at the right temperature with the right minerals inside. But they still can't make it grow. One man plants, another man waters, but only God gives the increase. So the spiritual disciplines are the creating of the great conditions that are optimal for growth. We call this idea of placing ourselves into the place where God can change us disciplined grace. Disciplined grace. And the idea of embarking on that journey of disciplined grace we call the path of disciplined grace. The path of disciplined grace. On one side of the path of disciplined grace, you have something we call moralism. And I can't remember if we talked about this in Galatians or Colossians when we did those two chapters, but these are the things that Paul was dealing with. Moralism, which is a striving for righteousness through human effort. And antinomianism, which is neglecting effort altogether and saying, God gave us grace. There's nothing I can do to make this better, so I may as well sin, because where sin abounds, grace does much more abound. So that's two sides of that coin. Both of them are different. One is the celebrating of will, so will worship, and then the other one is, I'll just do what I want. Yeah. That's exactly, that's what Paul was pointing at. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Exactly. Now, in the end, we can't see the content of the heart. So why a person does a thing is important. And if the reason they do the thing is they think, if I make sure that I don't sow two different crops together in the same field, I will go to heaven. No. But if I obey that law, because that is God's law, and I am going to honor God by doing the thing that he wants me to do, and that's what I know to do, and I will do it for that reason, that's a completely different story. Yeah. 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 Exactly. So let's stay on that for a second. We know that the Pharisees, the whole idea of the Pharisees, the Pharisaical order, it grew up out of Second Temple Judaism. Second Temple Judaism is what we call the way that Judaism was expressed and done and practiced after they came back from Babylon, and they built the Second Temple in Zechariah. And so that's why we call it Second Temple. The Pharisees basically were like, we're not going back there. We're not going back to Babylon. We're not doing that ever again. And we did that. Why? Well, because we didn't keep all the laws. Now, they missed everything about when the prophet said, actually, it's the way that you were exercising justice, in yourselves. They forgot that and just said, it was because we didn't keep the law. So we're going to keep the law. And that then was like, okay, well, then let's interpret this law. Okay, well, what exactly does it mean to tithe? So what exactly does it mean to not work on the Sabbath? What's work? And then over years that turned it into like this many kilometers or this much time or this much effort or this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, all those sorts of things that are still, in different ways held in different types of Judaism today. That's where where the Pharisees came up with that. So there was an intent, but the intent was not, we want to honor God. And I know I'm, putting intent back on people from 2,500 years ago, but just bear with me on this. The intent was not, we want to honor God and get as close to him as we can. It's, we're not going back to Babylon. I don't want to do that again. We're staying here. And therefore, this is how we're going to do it.
And if there's this human ingenuity involved in all of that, then you know what I'm saying?
Keep going.
Well, like you're talking about, if they didn't want to go back because they felt like they had to uphold all of the law.
Yep.
And they dissected the law.
Yep.
There would have been adages.
Yes.
What actually go on with
yes.
Too, because so that would have turned, like, I guess my question is the will worship, like those certain types of offshoots of religious practice would have gone into that kind of category.
Yeah.
Being their own.
100%. Yeah. And that's what Jesus literally spoke about in Matthew 23 and 4, which I'm going to cite in a little bit, when he talks specifically to the Pharisees. Okay, so backing up, we're talking about the path of disciplined grace. Say that with me. Path of disciplined grace. That is what we want to get to. That is spiritual discipline. It is the path of disciplined grace. Disciplined grace. It avoids the two extremes of moralism and antinomianism. So then the spiritual disciplines themselves are a means of grace. They don't produce change themselves. This is the crazy part. And this is the thing that we actually have to grip and grasp and understand, is that the spiritual disciplines don't actually do anything themselves. They don't actually produce any change on their own. They simply place us into the right conditions where God can give the increase. That's it. That's all they do. There is no individual power in sitting in a chair with a book open like this and reading the words on it. But if you do that, you are putting yourself in the place where God can do something and change you and move in your life. They function then as a means of grace, a means of placing yourself somewhere where God can work on you. And over time, as God transforms your inner nature, then virtues start to come up, like love and kindness. And they become then a natural rather than a forced function, a natural part of who we are. This is why they're called the fruits of the Spirit. And I love, and I'm sure my wife loves, how so much of this is all about gardening and growth and farming. Galatians 5:22. By contrast, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such there is no law against such things. You notice how I just started quoting the King James while I'm reading a different version. It's funny. There is no such law, no law against such things. So we, like a farmer, set the conditions for growth, but it is God who brings forth the fruit. So what was once hard becomes easy because divine love then reshapes our habits. See, this is the amazing thing. What we could try and accomplish through will worship and moralism and laws and trying to abide by something that was difficult to do becomes natural for us when we put ourselves in the place and in the right conditions for God to work on us. It's really easy to sit and beat yourself up and say, why don't I have more joy in my life? Why don't I have more peace in my life? I'm saved. I attend church. What's going on here? Well, it's pretty straightforward. We have to take ourselves and put ourselves in the place where God can transform. And when God transforms, those grow. They don't happen. God did not speak fruit into existence, right? But he grows it. Oh, exactly, in its season. Brings forth its fruit in its season if we abide. And that whole idea of abiding is putting yourself in the condition. It is the path of grace. Oh, yes. Yep. Exactly. Yep. Give it time. Yep. You know what's quite funny? You know that Bethphage, the name of the village that Jesus walked through when going from Jerusalem or Jericho to Jerusalem. It means the house. That's what Bet means. The house of unripe figs. Kind of funny, right? But it puts you in mind that whole idea of that fig tree, right? That was just not blossoming, wasn't bringing forth anything. It just wasn't in the right place. And figs don't produce when they're not in the right place. They don't like it. And when there's something they don't like, it's like, I'm not ripening. Doesn't matter what you want. I'm not going to do it. Yeah, it's not time, not place. I'm not in the right conditions. Have you ever seen a plant that has been given the wrong conditions out of season? We were in Calgary one year, and in the winter, we had snow, everywhere snow, lots of heavy snow. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like 20 degrees. Right today in Calgary, I believe it hit 19. Out of nowhere. And all of a sudden, the plants are like, let's go! And they're growing and putting stuff out. And then the next week, crack! Broken trees everywhere. Because they all thought it's the season. It wasn't the season. But the conditions were wrong. Don't put yourself in those conditions at that time. When you're in that winter season, don't take yourself and put yourself in the summer place. It's not going to feel great. And the opposite way around either. Right? But how do you stay in the right conditions? What do you know what the right conditions are? Am I supposed to be walking around? Whoa, where do I put myself right now, God? Do I put myself here? No. None of that. It's the path. The path. What is the path? The path is the spiritual disciplines. They never change. If you're going through a time of peace, the path of spiritual discipline is the same. If you're going through a time of a lack of peace, the spiritual discipline is the same. It's always the same. The path of disciplined grace is always the same. Stay on the path. This is why early Christians called it the way. It's the way. The way, the truth, and the life. That's what the spiritual disciplines are. It's the path of disciplined grace. So we stay there. Danger remains then, turning disciples or disciplines. If we take those disciplines and we turn them into rigid laws, we then can lead ourselves to pride, to fear, and to externalism or moralism like that of the Pharisees. When disciplines themselves become tools for control, they lose their life-giving purpose. Now, that speaks to spiritual authority and spiritual abuse really heavily, because there are many churches, congregations, and religions throughout the world where the whole idea of disciplines, spiritual disciplines, become a way to control the people. And there is, of course, a reason why it was said that religion is the opiate of the masses. It's a way to control the people. It's not, and that's not how it should be dealt with. The spiritual disciplines are the thing into which we are invited by God in order so that we can be transformed by Him. To use another biblical metaphor, to me, the spiritual disciplines are God's potter's wheel and placing ourselves on that. And the potter's wheel is not a comfortable place to be, and that's the discipline. And when we get there, we can be transformed. And no matter what season or what thing we're going through in life, that potter's wheel is always in the same place. But to look at someone and say, you need to get on the potter's wheel, because I can see from your externals that you, not very spiritual, not very good, full of sin, definitely one of the fools, who say in their heart there's no God. Fix it, right? Oh yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you that as a pastor, I don't want to do that for two reasons. I find it incredibly uncomfortable. And number two, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Right? There's a reason why in leadership, they say that when there's a great leader, the people say, we did it ourselves. We did it ourselves. And God is that great leader. And the we did it ourselves is we stepped into it. We weren't told what to do, but we stepped into it and we were transformed and we became new things. The spiritual disciplines take us from being a person who says, I'm not enough and I must increase and get better at these areas in my life. And I could, all that, to I am so in love with the things of God. And all I want and all I desire are the things he wants. And it's not a discipline for me to act that way. It comes out of a place of, it's now just who I am. Would I have thought years ago that this was the kind of person I could be? No. But now, it's just what I want now. That is a future thing. Don't expect that now. It takes, even Paul wrote, the things that I want to do, I don't do. And the things I don't want to do, I do. If Paul can write that, I can write that about myself. So give yourself some space, but stay on the path of disciplined grace. Jesus said this about the Pharisees, and this goes back to what you were saying before, Kara. Matthew 23:4. They tie up heavy burdens hard to bear. They lay them on the shoulders of others, because they were the primary teachers of Judaism at the time. But they themselves are unwilling to lift a finger to move them. And then in 2 Corinthians 3:5-6, not that we are qualified ourselves to claim anything as coming from us, but instead our qualification is from God. This is a beautiful little illustration of two different types of spiritual leader. The first one being the Pharisees, the moralists. They tie up burdens that are so hard to bear. And then now in 2 Corinthians, he says, we're not qualified ourselves to claim anything as coming from us. Our qualification is from God, who has made us qualified to be ministers of a new covenant or new law. Not of letter, but of spirit. For the letter kills, but the spirit gives life. True spiritual growth then requires humility and reliance on God's spirit, not legalism or legalistic enforcement. God has promised that he will guide us and lead us on this path of disciplined grace, ensuring that these disciplines remain a means of grace rather than of a burden. And ultimately, what this world needs is genuinely transformed people who pursue inner change through God's work. And so, in this series that we go on and we talk about various parts of what we're going to call the spiritual disciplines are all part of that path, the disciplined path of grace, and as a means towards grace. We will realize and understand that we do not earn grace. We don't acquire that. It is a gift. But to quote an old song or an old saying, we have to get underneath of the spout where the glory comes out. It is free, but we have to put ourselves there. And so grace is a gift, but we have to accept it. And the spiritual disciplines are a way that we accept it. And we put ourselves into that environment where change and transformation can truly take place. It doesn't happen in an instant. It takes a long time. You are a very complex and complicated and wonderful and beautiful creation. You are not simple. There is no switch that we can flip to just change who you are from one day to the next. But just as you were brought up and you grew over a long, complicated time period, you will after being reborn, grow and mature over a long and complicated time period. And it's okay. And it's good. And stick with it.
No matter the circumstance, no matter what.
No matter what. Exactly. No matter the circumstances, no matter what's going on in the world, no matter what's happening around us, we can always find that place to be. So, will worship. Be careful of will worship and instead seek to step on the path of disciplined grace. Any comments or questions, thoughts, observations?
You're still busting into those laws.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. Do we have chairs? Do we not have chairs? Do we go
Like
here?
my friends
Do we
said,
go there?
They even talk about, is it work to put the tea bag into the water? Or put the water on the tea bag? So that's how you were saying before, interpreting things.
Yeah.
That's what you can
Yeah.
happen. And then that's when you get all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I couldn't believe it.
I'm really glad that you made it more clear on the difference between the DIY religion, the self-help genre that is out there, and the difference between that and discipline, grace, and walking in grace. Because a lot of the self-help stuff out there is influenced by good morality.
Yeah.
So it sounds good.
Yeah.
But what we need to do is to make sure that we are approaching and being critical thinking through the lens of the Spirit and asking for wisdom.
Yeah.
Sounds good, but we got to put it up against this. Is it?
Yeah.
Because there's so much out there from so many different and good leaders.
Yeah.
But not all of it.
Yeah.
Some of it does lean more towards self-help and the DIY religion.
Yeah.
They really big picture of what grace is and how we are to honor
Yeah. And the way to do that is just want more. And not by making sin abide, to make Christ much more abide, but by putting ourselves in that place where we can be changed and transformed. Like honestly, we are sinful. Sin, we love to hyper focus on sin being a crime. Right? Like we like to say, this is the crime that you committed today. You lied. You let your anger drive your behavior. You, whatever it happens to be. And we love to write, that's not how it works. Sin is so much deeper than that. Sin is the thing that is currently inside trying to transform our behavior. Exactly. And so now we've been born again, and we have an opportunity to be born in grace and shapen by grace. We have to put ourselves in that place.
I think that's very good, because putting ourselves in that place, especially when you come out of such a world of sin and you've got so much of that there, to go and hear and really allow the Word of God to begin to transform and change you. But it's putting yourself in that place to hear, but also to be humble enough, how can I say it, but humble enough to actually accept the Word of God and allow it to transform and change your life and change your disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes along with this guy that he's a pastor down in California that does a thing called Saved and Sober. And he said, when God spoke to Israel, he said, I'm going to deliver you. It wasn't instantaneous.
No, yeah,
There was a process.
a process.
And he took them into the land of
Yeah.
promise where there was milk and honey.
Yeah.
But he said what he did was deliver them from the curse. And then
Yeah.
this is the word that he said, and I wrote this down. It has stayed with me, and I've tried to call him once to talk to him. I'm going to try again. But he said, you have to do the discipline to keep from falling back into the curse.
Yeah.
And so, and when you're talking about that sin that's in there, Paul said, I die daily.
Yeah.
That, we are going to have to do
It wants to live.
it.
And the crazy thing is that your sinful life is already in the perfect condition to grow.
Yep.
You're here. You're in this world. It rewards sin. It is already there. You don't have to put it there. You do not have to take your life and say, I need to grow more evil and villainous. Where can I be the most villainous and evil? You do not have to.
Yeah.
You're already there. And you can do it. It's all around us. But, yeah, I believe in you. It's there. It's default. You have to try. You have to try to take yourself and put yourself into the condition where your spirit can grow. That's what we call sowing to the Spirit. It's taking care of that. It's like, how do I cultivate that? Right? How do I take myself out of the cesspool and put myself into... And some people confuse that then with, I have to move. No, it doesn't help. This whole world, like, it's perfect for sin. It's perfect for sin. Yeah.
God initiates God's grace.
Yeah.
Mercy there. Our response to that. Without God.
Well, we couldn't make it.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't be here.
No.
If God wasn't in the picture,
Yeah.
the circumstances of life would have
Long
been
ago.
and hard and probably back and dry.
Yeah.
I'm here because of God's grace.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Really.
100%. Yeah.
Look at ourselves in the mirror.
Yeah.
Let me say the word that Paul said, which is really cool. Okay, because
What'd he say?
Our church does. We do the recovery program.
Yeah.
He said, I.
Yeah.
So it's
not kill yourselves every day. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all you
Yeah.
out there,
Yeah.
you gotta die daily.
All right, you swine, you amen.
I die daily. So it's something that we do.
Yeah.
It's something
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
put ourselves into.
It's like and let's close with this. When we were in Belize, I was amazed at how stuff just grew everywhere. Like, no matter what, it just grew everywhere. And in order for them to grow crops, it was the normal thing they would do is walk around with an incredibly strong pesticide and just spray the ground, just liberally putting it on to just because everything would just grow. If you wanted to grow something, it's just not going to grow. They would kill everything, scrape it all out, and then they would go plant what they want and hope it would grow through that stuff. And that's a terrible way to do it. It is. But our lives are the Belize, as it were, for sin. It just wants to grow, and the conditions are perfect for it. And so every day we've got to be in there, nipping in the bud, popping out again. And how did you get back in here? I'm pretty sure I got rid of that last time. And the little root, you must be loving this, right, honey? The little root, you got to get that out. And you know what happens? You go to sleep and you wake up and in come the servants. Master, master, some evil person has come and sown tares in to all the wheat. What do I do? Something has blown in. An acorn has, and in the night, a squirrel came and buried a little nut of distraction in my life. He was so cute. He came and he dug and he put it in there. It was, oh, but it's got to come out. Otherwise, you'll have the oak tree of distraction in your life.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus said the wheat and the tares will grow together.
Yep.
Sometimes there's tares. And
Oh, yeah.
sometimes you gotta learn to navigate and live for God with the tares.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there's trouble and it doesn't
Yeah.
go away.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be honest here.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't go away.
No, sometimes it doesn't go away.
You're gonna grow through that. You're gonna grow through that.
You can. 100%. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, sometimes you can't just pluck it away.
It's never going to be perfect. And that's exactly what we're saying, is it's never going to be perfect. The field that is your life is never going to be perfect because it's in the conditions for sin to grow and to abide. Always. But there is grace for that. And the answer is not, I will make it perfect, which is the one side, right? Moralism. And then the other one is not just let everything grow and God will sort it out. Because that's antinomianism, right? It's still, I'm going to do some work, but I keep finding these things here. Yeah. Yeah. I think the maturity is when you grow and you look at that field that is your life and you see those things growing there that you don't want and that you have taken out many times and it's there again. It's just like, okay, let's go do it. That's all. And not saying, I'm broken. My life is broken. This field is garbage. I'm going to burn the whole thing down. What's the whole point of it anyway? That's not the reaction. The reaction is, okay, this is a tough one. This is hard. But we're going to try again and we're going to see if we can get this out. And all of us have Paul's thorn in the flesh. We all do. And we all struggle with things. Stay on the path of disciplined grace. That's what we do. And give yourself grace. Don't look at it and say, I'm broken. Say, this is normal. And this is what God died for. And I'm going to keep trying. Yeah.
We're going through a not so good circumstance or
Mhm.
situation or whatever, relationship or what have you. We tend to kind of go to our own thinking and we try to play it out like it's not good, so you know what, we're done or whatever.
Yeah.
And we don't go to God for that, and we just, I'll just use me for, like, I've done terrible things. Like,
Yeah.
I went from my stuff, like, because I was thinking on my own.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I went to God, and I
Mhm.
was telling a girlfriend of mine just today that I wish I would have said what I said to her today and a few months ago, because I made some decisions, very serious decisions, on my own feelings, my own, like my own stories.
Yeah.
Right, and there's consequences to that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's all about, getting everything out of your own being. Like, you have to kind of step out of yourself. Like me, I'm just kind of silly, but I imagine myself as a human. Like my own thinking, my own
Mhm.
It's like God. Like it's like God is in us.
Yeah.
And we have to walk.
But you see that what we don't do is step aside and just sort of let God sort of take control, as it were, right? It's he wants to change us, right? He wants to form us. That's like his project isn't just to be like, I'm God and you're a little human, so you get out of the way and let me be. That's not his project. He created us. Otherwise, he wouldn't have created us. So he created us in his image, but he's like, you guys fell off the potter's wheel, and it's a bit of a mess. And in fact, you jumped off the potter's wheel. But if you like, I've slowed it down. You can get back on, and I can form you again. But I want you to be something, and that's you. It's you. And it's not just like emptying you of yourself and being filled with God. No, he's going to take you and transform you. And you will be his daughter. And you will be, when you look at yourself in the mirror, you see, I resemble my Father. I can see him in me.
You can't empty yourself of yourself.
No.
He fills you with his spirit.
Yeah.
Even when you're full of
Exactly. Which is, Jesus had the Spirit without measure.
Yeah.
That's the point, right?
And
100%.
that's if we try, because then what happens if we try to empty ourselves of whatever then that's will worship.
Yeah. And that becomes also very
We
bleak.
allow that spirit to say, to grow
Yeah.
and walk in that path of spiritual disciplines. You know, thank God for a place to grow.
Yeah.
Thank God for the local church.
Yeah.
Thank God for
Yeah.
that. Because I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of alcoholics and drug addicts that go to different places and they'll say, thank God for AA, gives me
Yeah.
a place to go.
Yeah.
Okay? So this is a place for sinners to come.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
That's
Hey,
right.
My name is Gabriel and I'm a sinner and I need help by the grace of God
Yeah.
to change.
Yes.
You know, because
Yeah.
and we're always changing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
said you're not perfect. You're going to have this. You're going to have yourself to deal with.
Every morning that you wake up,
Yeah.
you will have yourself to deal with, and your own special set of tears, and your own special set of thorns and thistles and little nuts planted by squirrels.